everybody, welcome to the week 3 Kombucha Lab video. This week for the pre-lab you're going to be doing two big things. The first thing you're doing, although it's the second thing on the list, is making graphs in Excel. So we'll talk about that in a second. The second thing that you're going to do is learn more detail about the microbes that ferment kombucha. The first fermentation happens with yeast. The second fermentation happens with bacteria. So you'll learn qualities of yeast and bacteria as big groups of microbes. And then you'll learn about how to do scientific naming if you don't already know. So to prepare for the pre-lab, you will read these sections. And then you're going to make some graphs. So let me take you over to Canvas. So here's the week 3 pre-lab section in Canvas, okay? And so this is about the pre-labs. This is the video that I am re-recording right now. And so read about microbes here or in the lab manual. So this is what you need to know about microbes. You can read it as it says here or in the lab manual. So it's about scientific names and then keep going about bacteria, about yeast, etc. If you feel rusty on Excel, the next thing here is the videos to teach you about Excel. And so it will have a video, and then with the video will be a list of bullets, what you should get out of that video. If you already feel confident in that list of stuff, skip the video. And so, video, list of bullets, video, list of bullets, etc. The video all the way at the bottom shows you about how to make column graphs. We are also going to have the graphing help session, but if you cannot make that or you want to get additional help, you can watch this video. Okay? And then the next thing in the week 3 pre-lab is the Canvas questions. Again, you'll have 10 questions out of a bank of more than 10 questions. You can do this twice. Some of the questions will be about the microbes from this read about the microbes section. And some of the questions will be about Excel from these bullet things to learn about Excel. So, mix of questions. You can take the quiz twice. The other big thing that you're going to do for the pre-lab this week is graphing. And so for that, you're going to look here at week 3 pre-lab data sets and instructions for graphing, which I already opened. Okay. You're going to make the column graph. This is one where the bars go up and down. You might call it a bar graph, but in fact, it is a column graph because a bar graph is like horizontal bars. So you're going to make a column graph. You're going to make two graphs, one for representing a white sugar kombucha and one representing a pineapple kombucha. Okay? You need to have Excel installed on your computer to do this. So if you go, I forgot to look this up actually. Yeah. If you go in this up to the top of the modules, you will not see instructor module. But if you go up to the top of the modules, you should see general lab. And then it says get OneDrive and Microsoft Office. Here is where you can go to get Microsoft Office. If you log in with your Washita ID, it is free to install. Excuse me, but you do need it installed on your computer. Do not use, do not use not Excel. And then definitely do not use the web Excel. So it just doesn't have all the functionality that we need. So step 1, get Excel installed. If you need help with that, come to the graphing help session and somebody will help you. Once you get Excel installed, then you're going to come here to this week 3 pre-lab data sets. It tells you what graphs you're going to make, and then it gives you important notes. You're just going to graph the numbers we give you. You're not going to make averages. It tells you what the explanatory variable is, what the response variable is. You should know where on the graph those go. Which one goes on the X, which one goes on the Y. You're going to add together the glucose and fructose. See right there? So it tells you about that. It tells you what the graph should look like, gives you an example of what the graph should look like. So your graph should look something like this, except obviously will not say the word example on it. Also, your columns might be different heights. And so you're going to scroll down here below the example graph, and you're going to use one of these 4 data sets depending on your last name. And so each data set has slightly different numbers. And so your graph will look generally like the example. It's going to have a glucose plus fructose section. It's going to have an ethanol section, going to have an acetic acid section, going to have 6-day column, 10-day column, 14-day column, but your values will be different depending on which of the data sets you use. So you'll download the data set, use the Excel installed on your computer to make the graphs. Again, if you need tip about graphing, you can go to the videos to teach you about Excel, and the very last video is the how to make column graphs video. All right, back to the pre-lab data sets and instructions. The very bottom of this page tells you how to turn in your graphs. You'll turn them in 2 ways. Way number 1, you're going to upload the Excel that you make to Moodle. Fiddlesticks. I'm just missing those all the time. Ideally, it will say Canvas by the time it comes to you. You will upload those to Canvas, and you must call the Excel file this thing. And so the second way that you'll turn this in is you're going to print it out, and then either on the back of the graph or on a separate paper stapled to the graph, you're going to answer these 3 questions. And so you'll write your answers to these 3 questions on the printed out graph, and then you will also upload the graph. In lab, you will be, let me get out of this, back to the lab manual. So in lab, you're going to be making kombucha. It's going to be very exciting. We will get kombucha starters in the mail, probably from a place in Virginia, because that's where they will send them. Oops, I think one of my files closed. And so you're going to make kombucha in lab. You guys know from practicing last week that it can take the water a while to boil, and it can also take the water a while to cool. So start the water boiling as soon as you can after the quiz. You will need to boil an entire kettle's worth because that's how much you'll need to make 2 jars. So let me get back to this thing. Okay. So the Notebook Forms course pack, right, has the schedule, and then the manual is going to have the directions for making kombucha. So I will click, you will turn there. You're going to go to making kombucha. Your control jar is going to have this list of stuff. Your experimental jar is going to have this list of stuff except for the one thing that you are changing. Only allowed to change one thing. So you're going to get your jar. It's going to be empty, right, when you get it. You're going to fill it up maybe like 2/3-ish with the boiling water. Put your tea bags in. Your jar should come to you with a metal lid ring on top. You're going to unscrew that, put the tea bags, put the ring back on over the tea bag strings, and that helps to hold them in place during the steeping time. So you're going to steep the tea. That is when it's sitting in there. I forget how long, 5 minutes. Let the tea steep for 5 minutes. You're going to be timing that. It's going to go in your notebook. And then you're going to take the tea bags out. You will add your carbohydrate, your white sugar, your brown sugar, your honey, your molasses, your fruit, your whatever you're adding, carbohydrate, sugary thing for the microbes to eat. You will add at this time because it probably needs to dissolve while the tea is hot. Okay? So you're going to have the boiling water, 1/2 to 2/3 of the jar, tea bags, 5 minutes, tea bags out, sugar thing in. Okay, stir with, you should have a big spatula. After you stir, put a paper towel over the lid of your jar, poke a little hole for the thermometer, but we do not want any mold to fall into your jar because now it's got sugar as the jar is cooling. So you're going to let the tea cool to 45 to 50, and then we'll get these kombucha starters in the mail. They'll come in little baggies. You're going to weigh the baggie with the starter, cut open the baggie, dump the entire starter in. It's going to have some liquid kombucha, which is called soup, and it's going to have a little SCOBY, which is the solid floaty part. You're going to cut open the bag, dump the whole starter in, then you're going to weigh the empty bag so you'll know the weight of the starter. And then you'll have a jar that is some amount full, depending on if you add fruit, don't add fruit, whatever, with starter. Can you guys see, let me make this slightly bigger, where the jar ring lid screws on is called the threads of the jar. And so see where this white fizz line is in this jar of kombucha? That is how full you want your jar to be. So if your jar is less full than that, you're going to add it up to that point with the DI water, put on a new paper towel with no holes, use the jar ring lid to screw on to hold the paper towel. You're then going to put a masking tape saying your group number and what you've put in the jar. You can also write your group number on the top of the paper towel. Don't put a masking tape. It'll mess up the breathability of the paper towel. You can just write right on the paper towel with Sharpie. Okay, so back to the notebook forms pack. You'll fill this part out like normal, this part out like normal. This part is the text results. And so the person who's doing this, person B or C, depending on how many people are in your group, as soon as the jars are finished, the person is going to do this for day 0, which is the day you make the jar. And then you're going to take pictures. And so if you have not already been to your group's OneDrive folder, you're going to take a picture of the jars, be sure that the picture meets the picture criteria, and you're then going to upload, you're going to name the picture of each jar. You'll take the picture separate, control jar, experimental jar. You're going to name the pictures and upload those pictures to your group's OneDrive folder. Far and away, the easiest way to do this is to put the OneDrive app on your phone. So you'll get those pictures taken and named. You'll write the name here. You'll write if you uploaded it. You get graded both on if your picture meets the criteria, if it has a name that is descriptive and not the default, and then if the picture is uploaded. There's no interpretation of results this week. And then we get to procedures. And so as the procedure is going on, the procedure person is going to need to keep really careful track of all the numbers. So exactly how long are the tea bags in, exactly how much white sugar in the control jar, what is your experimental ingredient, exactly how much of that are you putting in, exactly how much does the starter weigh. So you'll do, again, plastic bag plus starter, and then empty plastic bag, and that difference is what's going to go in here. And then the experimental design should be similar to last week, except drastic difference. Last week, the response variable was yeast production, right? And this week, or yeast concentration. And this week, it's acid production. So the way the kombucha works is you make the jar, the first fermentation is by yeast. And so the yeast is going to grow, it's going to make a lot of alcohol and a lot of yeast cells. And so last week's response variable we measured was yeast concentration, so make a lot of yeast cells. Once the yeast have grown and made the alcohol, the bacteria that are also in the starter will consume the alcohol. They can also consume any remaining sugar, and the bacteria will make the acid. So the acid is made toward the end of the fermentation, and it indicates the overall success of the fermentation and how healthy the microbes were in general, and how well they did with the carbohydrate you added or the spice or the whatever. And so this acid production response variable is that. And so the hypotheses will be different, but the rationale for your alternative is probably going to be pretty similar to last week's. So that's what we're doing this week in lab.